Hello, and I am coming to you from Siena, Italy. This is my last summer broadcast from Europe. I'm going to go back to the US in 2 weeks, and then the winter season will be broadcasts from the Pacific Northwest in the evening. I'm super appreciative to you if you are watching this at whatever time you're managing to see it, or if you're watching it weeks after the original broadcast. I appreciate you as an audience. Today is a program that is honoring workers and laborers throughout the centuries. It's called Workers' Rites. And this is not a coincidence that yesterday was Labor Day in the United States, which celebrates having rights for workers. It celebrates things like decent pay and reasonable hours. But the pieces that I'm going to play today are interestingly kind of showcasing jobs that were not great, and many of them from times long ago. When I choose these programs, I mean, mostly I was just looking for pieces that had something to do with a job that I could say, great, there's a job depicted in this piece. But as it turned out, the jobs ended up being either menial or not highly valued or performed by people without a lot of means. So that's kind of what we are acknowledging today, that unfortunately these kinds of jobs still exist in our world. The first piece I'm going to play is by the French composer Marin Marais. This was originally written for the viola da gamba, which is a precursor of the cello, with a little bass line, would have been keyboard or a bass instrument or a bass instrument. And so I've made my own arrangement where I've kind of incorporated the harmony that would have been represented by the second part. This is called Scene of a Bladderstone Operation. And it is literally describing what happens during this operation, which evidently was fairly common. The piece was written 300 years ago, so in the early 1700s, a time before anesthesia, and when surgery was pretty primitive. So the jobs being represented here are not just that of a surgeon, which would have been someone with a lot of education who allegedly knew what he was doing, but rather I'm kind of focusing on all the attending folks. The same way that in our medical profession, there are so many people behind the scenes, the orderlies, the people cleaning up, because you'll get a reference to some of that in this piece. This is an operation where the patient had to be restrained and held down. As I mentioned, no anesthesia. So I'm going to narrate it as we go. It was originally written in French. I will narrate it in English. This is a scene from a bladderstone operation by Marin Marais. The appearance of the operating table. Trembling at seeing it. Determination to mount it. Climbing on. Descent of the apparatus. Serious thoughts. Knotting the silk restraints for arms and legs. Here the incision is made. Introduction of the forceps. Here they take the stone. And then you lose your voice. The blood is flowing. the silks are unknotted. Then you are taken to bed. A bit gruesome, but interesting. The next piece, so actually the next two pieces are going to reference soldiering. And they are pieces that are written about soldiering many years ago. So the first one was written, actually is written by Paul Brantley, who's a cellist and composer on the East Coast. He wrote this piece in 2016, but he based it on a tune from the 15th century. This tune is called L'Homme Armé, which means the armed man. And Paul's version of this is called L'Homme Armé désarmé, so the disarmed armed man. And the words that go along with the original are, the armed man should be feared. Everywhere it has been proclaimed that each man should arm himself, which sounds like our Second Amendment a little bit. And this is, of course, during a time when there was lots of volunteer armies and volunteer soldiering, people trying to protect from marauding hordes. Paul is a cellist, and so there's some very interesting pizzicato techniques in particular in this piece. This is L'Homme Armé désarmé by Paul Brantley. was L'homme armé désarmé by Paul Brantley. And I realized that I don't have the right setting on the StreamYard, and I can't see any comments. And so I'm just turning on the comments just in case there are any. Okay. The next piece is the other piece about soldiering. And this one is also actually written about the same time period as the Marin Marais. I don't mean that it is composed then, but it's written about things happening during the 1720s. This is called Marche des Mousquetaires, and it's by a French composer named Auguste Tolbecque. He lived until 1919, so sort of across in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And you won't probably recognize his name, but if you're a cellist, it's interesting to know that he is the cellist who premiered the first Saint-Saëns cello concerto, the famous one. So he definitely had renown during his day. This is the Marche des Mousquetaires, musketeers, of course, being the French soldiers of the time, I guess. That was the Marche des Mousquetaires by Auguste Tolbecque. So the next program on the concert is kind of the heaviest, definitely the longest. This is variations on the very famous song, The Volga Boatmen, which is a Russian folk song kind of unknown origin. And it was put into a book of folk songs in the 1860s and became very renowned, I guess, in the 20th century, early 20th century, by a bass named Chaliapin, Russian bass, who sang it a lot. Even if you can't recall it exactly, you know it, I'm sure. The English words are yo heave ho, etc. It is a song about a horrible job, actually, about barge haulers on the Volga River. And I'm sure there were barge haulers in other places, but this song is specifically about that. These guys were called burlak, is the word in Russian. And it comes from a Tatar word literally meaning homeless. So these guys were really penniless men, they did not use women to do this barge hauling, who were unskilled labor in a society that of serfs and peasants. But like for 400 years, these guys hauled barges in teams. So if you've seen the publicity for this concert, the front of the program, go look at it another time. It's the famous painting by Ilya Repin about the Volga boatmen, and you can just see how miserable they are. It's cold in Russia, muddy on banks of rivers. So this is just a super miserable job. The set of variations that I'm going to play are by a Danish composer named Niels Viggo Bentzon, and I definitely never heard of him. He wrote a lot of things. His catalog has like 650 pieces in it or something like that. And he was quite renowned in Denmark during his time. I love his years. So I will tell you, they are 1919 to 2020, which I just think is wonderful. He didn't quite make it to his 101st birthday, but he was 100 years old when he died. And the composition of his that is received the most performances is a jingle, a 3-note jingle that he wrote for the Danish railway, which is still played every time the doors open on the trains. And so it's been played millions of times. That's his biggest claim to fame. In any case, so this Volga Boatman variations, as I said, it's long. I am not even going to play the whole piece. The entire piece is, it says it on my music, it says it's approximately 21 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play the theme and 7 of the variations, and it will still feel like a big, enormous piece. It's very interesting. It was written in 1979, so in a contemporary time period, but it's a very romantic treatment of this tune. And I think you'll be able to hear that Volga Boatman tune song. Try that again. I think you'll be able to hear that tune from the song, the Volga Boatman, throughout the piece. That was about 2/3 of the piece Variations on Song of the Volga Boatman by Niels Viggo Bentzon. I need just a moment before I play the next piece. And the next piece is something really different. This is a piece by the British composer Sally Beamish. Actually, I'm going to take a drink of water. British composer Sally Beamish, who's written lots and lots of music actually for solo cello. I've played some of her stuff before. This is called The Wise Maid. And of course, being a maid means cleaning up after people. And that's certainly a job that's still around, whether you get paid for it or not, right? There's that essence of being a maid. But I mean, I also want to acknowledge that there are lots of people who have to do that kind of work because they don't have another job. That's how they make ends meet, is by doing a job such as a maid. This is a much more lighthearted look at work, however, because it's based on an Irish fiddle tune called The Wise Maid. And so this is a set of variations that the composer wrote to be a sort of flashy end of program, it's almost kind of silly piece. And in fact, she says that the cello technique is excessive in this piece. She admits that it's kind of ridiculous. So this is The Wise Maid by Sally Beamish. That was The Wise Maid by Sally Beamish to end this Workers' Rights concert. I'm going to take a brief moment to look at comments from folks. I know a lot of you are going to watch this after. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Lots of familiar names there. Tracy, Brenda, I've seen you before. Lisa, Veronique. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Next month, the first Tuesday of October, the program will be In Memoriam. It's music, fairly somber, not all of it, but music that commemorates some sort of tragedies, either famous or personal. So I'll see you then. Bye.